This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Want to pull off the season's freshest trends? You just need the right shoes. That's where Designer Shoe Warehouse comes in. Loving wide-leg jeans? Pair them with sleek, low-profile sneakers. Obsessed with the sheer trend? Try it with mesh flats. Feeling boho? Comfy sandals nail the whole free-spirited thing. Find on-trend shoes from the brands you love, like Birkenstock, Nike, Adidas, and more at DSW.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months. Become a certified cyber warrior with training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify.
Want to feel more creative but don't have the right laptop? Lenovo.com can help. Look through our legendary lineup of AI-powered PCs and devices and find the one that fits your passion. Our PCs powered by Intel Core Ultra processors, as well as cutting-edge AI tools, allow students to focus, learn, and create with ease. That's the power of Lenovo with Intel inside. Plus, college students and teachers can get 5% off their order. Shop now on Lenovo.com. The future's waiting, and it needs you.
Gives it up. Beautiful pass. McDavid in front. One time score! Leon Draisaitl! 4-3! Edmonton in overtime!
Oilers Radio 4-3 victory in overtime. At the absolute death of the first OT, a delay of game penalty sends Oilers on the man advantage. And it's Draisaitl with like 30 seconds left, icing it for the home team. Edmonton up 1-0 in the Stanley Cup Final, a rematch from last year. And joining me now at Russo Hockey via X, covers the Minnesota Wild, the NHL, all things hockey for The Athletic and theathletic.com. How are you doing, Michael?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic, thank you. And terrific start, speaking of fantastic, terrific start to this series, a rematch from last year. You know the history of it, of course. You watch an Oilers team that had trouble scoring over the first three games of last year's series, down 3-0. They fight back only to lose Game 7, finding their way in like 60, 70 seconds with Draisaitl last night, bookending the game with goals. It was a nice one last night, a chaotic one, but the Oilers found the W.
Yeah, sensational game, sensational atmosphere. And right when Nosek put the puck in the stands, you just knew what was going to happen. Especially with that much time on the clock before the potential intermission for a second overtime, you give those two guys a minute 43, and they're usually going to get it done. And as I wrote today, Draisaitl has the most overtime goals since he's been in the league, and in this overtime alone, he has 3 overtime winners in this postseason alone. Incredible play by Corey Perry, who's in his 5th Stanley Cup final in the last 6 years, hasn't won one. And then gets it to McDavid, who just always finds his partner there, and just a perfect ending for the Oilers. Not so much for Florida, who were up until that point 31-0 under Paul Maurice in the playoffs when leading after the first or second period.
Wow!
And they had a 2-goal lead and just gave it away. And I think that they realize right now, and this team usually responds, but they realize right now this is a very different Oilers team than they played last year. One, you have Connor McDavid, who's just cold-blooded right now. It's hard to imagine that he's going to be in this position again and not figure out a way to lift that cup.
Yeah.
And then the other two big things is that Evander Kane and Leon Draisaitl are healthy. Kane didn't play in last year's final. Draisaitl was absolutely hurt with rib and wrist injuries. Didn't even have a goal in the series. You could tell that he was struggling, and right now they are healthy, and that's got to be a scary proposition for Florida.
One of many dumb questions maybe over the course of this segment that I'll ask, but here's the first one. Is there any element to this? I was watching the pregame last night, and they showed a video after last year's Game 7 loss, and it was Zach Hyman who was really the loud voice in that room. I mean, it was brutal, man. 7-game series, you take the L, you got 97 crying in his locker, the whole thing. You know what goes into a season like that. But it was Hyman who was kind of trying to galvanize the troops a little bit. We will be back, bleep, bleep, bleep. We will be back. Mm-hmm. And now this is a guy you feel for him personally. This is a guy that sounds like he's not going to be part of this. But is there an element where this team's like they're carrying Hyman on their shoulders mentally as they go through this?
Yeah, Adam Henrique said that yesterday morning. It's kind of the win one to the Gipper type mentality, and you saw it after they won the Western Conference Final. They FaceTimed Hyman from the locker room. He's a tremendous guy. And obviously has performed masterfully in Edmonton since he came over from Toronto, and he's just done a tremendous job, and he's just beloved in that locker room. And then he has the wrist injury and is knocked out for the playoffs, and I think that does serve as motivation. But the one thing that's really impressive about this Edmonton team that Stan Bowman has to get credit for, even though it's his first year here, and this is sort of a organization built by the previous management and Ken Holland, and obviously they got Leon Draisaitl and McDavid and Nugent Hopkins there for years, is that they're just so much deeper than they were last year. And I don't think any of us thought that was possible when they lost Broberg and Holloway to offer sheets to St. Louis over the summertime. But they've gone in there and they've got guys just playing outstanding hockey. Podkolzin and Janmark and, Barry Kapanen yesterday looked like his dad on the ice. He just, to me, I'm blown away that they can continue to win with a blue line that includes John Klingberg, who we saw in Minnesota completely a broken player at that point with the hip injury. He has the resurfacing surgery that a lot of these guys have had, Patrick Kane and players like that, and now he looks like just a different human being on the ice. Brett Kulak's playing 20-some-odd minutes a game. Jake Wallman comes over for Detroit in a terrible move by Steve Yzerman. He's done wonders there. And you just think at some point, if Florida hammers those guys, that they're going to become Klingberg and Wallman and Kulak again. But right now in Game 1, they were 3 of their best defensemen. So this is a very deep team right now.
So I was taking some notes, just stream of consciousness into my phone watching this game, and you mentioned Corey Perry, and I wrote to myself, how good is Corey Perry at this stage of his career? 2 penalties in the first, seems like one could have been avoided. Is he still a game changer? I wrote that to myself, and then, of course, later in the game, he had this brilliant move. They were talking on the broadcast about how tough it was getting through the neutral zone, and Corey Perry just worked his way through 2 guys, set up a potential goal-scoring opportunity, and he was terrific. But Corey, at this stage, I mean, is this who he's playing around, or is the proof in the pudding with the 5 finals last 6 years, as you said, that at this age, maybe he's, we can look back at him as being kind of an instigator or kind of a frustrating personality in the league as Wild fans going up against him those years in Anaheim, but he's just still bringing it every night.
Yeah, no, he is. And it's funny. He took the 2 penalties bright and early in yesterday's game, and before the game during warm-ups, I actually texted 2 friends of mine saying that he was all hopped up and wired and looked like he was kind of a maniac. And then sure enough, he just felt like he was a little too hyped up and he took those 2 penalties. But then he makes the play of the game. Like McDavid to Draisaitl obviously is the headline there, but that puck gets to McDavid on a tremendous little subtle drop pass, sneaky blind, backhander to McDavid. And next thing you know, puck's in the back of the net a second later, and the only one that seemed to realize it on the ice was Marchand. Right when it happened, he was on top of the zone, and he read it and, desperately tried to get to Draisaitl, and obviously too late. But he is the same player he's been the last 5 years. He's absolutely reinvented himself. When he was in the Stanley Cup final with Montreal during the COVID year, to me, and he was playing on that line with Eric Stahl, he looked to me like that was probably it, and yet he just continues to play at a high level. And I don't know if you remember, but this is why the Wild, before he signed with Chicago, actually went after him and tried to sign him on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
And obviously then Chicago swoops in with some crazy $4.5 million contract, I think it was, with Nick Foligno. And then obviously he winds up in Edmonton after the issues that he had in Chicago off the ice. But he just continues to, again, 5 Stanley Cup finals in 6 years. That's no fluke. And and we'll see if he can win his first one since I think this is his rookie year with Anaheim.
Another dumb question for you. I'm just rattling them off here. Corey Perry, terrific last night and play of the game, as you mentioned. But so the first goal for Florida, Sam Bennett from Verhaeghe. It's off of the calf or the skate of Bennett. He would make sure that he got credit for a more pure goal shortly after that to make it 2-1. But the philosophy of the challenge there. So Chris Knobloch getting a lot of praise and credit as he should. Good coach. He's got this team in its second consecutive final. But the philosophy of challenging that there, Bennett, little gamesmanship probably. The guy's an absolute warrior. Kulak didn't exactly leg sweep him. He just fell down, made contact with Skinner, and the puck goes in. But the Knobloch choosing to challenge that, which not only fails, but then it leads to the delay of game penalty, which they then would score with Marchand on the ensuing man advantage. What did you think of that?
Yeah, at first seeing it live, I thought that it was clear goalie interference. Then when you really look at the replay and you see that Kulak kind of upends him, that is, whether he sold it or not, that is how he winds up on top of Skinner there. So yeah. I think the league got it right. I don't blame the coach on that challenge. It is such a subtle trip, and they're making decisions in real time. They don't, one of the big frustrations with a lot of the video coaches is that a lot of the looks that the league gets, they don't get on the bench as quickly in real time. And these coaches have 30 seconds to make a decision there. And when you have Bennett so far out above the goal mouth, and next thing you know, he's on the goalie as that puck is going in, it's clearly goalie interference. The question is, how did he get there? And clearly the league felt that Kulak put him there. But from Chris Knobloch's point of view, he said it after the game that he would do it again. It is such a subjective thing. The league is trying to make it less and less subjective, but the reality is that not every goalie interference is the same, and there does take some scrutiny involved there. You've got to make a real-time, quick decision under pressure. And if he doesn't challenge that, and then you look back on it afterwards and you lose the game, you're probably blaming yourself. So it was an incredible swing of the game. Amazingly, Florida then makes it 3-1, and they still don't take advantage. And, the best closers in the league wound up blowing that last night.
Yeah, and, Tkachuk, how's he looking? This is...
Not good.
Exactly. I remember Tkachuk a year ago, Russo, where he was single-handedly willing himself and the team by nature of this to victories. And then he kind of took a back seat last night. And it was still, we're talking about two teams, just absolutely, it's tidal waves of talent. They're just throwing at people. And from Bennett, and it's Barkov, all the face-off wins is a wild thing. I'm like, how do they do that? All these face-off wins, it's incredible. But Tkachuk in particular, clearly banged up a little bit. He's working his toil hard right now, trying to be a factor in the mix.
Yeah, you're right. Look, I thought he was really, really good in the Eastern Conference Final. I found, even though he didn't produce a ton in the second round, he found a way to make an impact in that series big time against Toronto. And as I mentioned, I covered that Eastern Conference Final. I loved the way that he played there, and he was all over them.
Yeah.
This is going to be a real tough thing. They are a fast team. Matthew, even when he's completely healthy, doesn't play with incredible pace. In fact, that's a big reason why I find that he cheats a lot. Offensively, is because he knows that, from a pace standpoint, he can't get in there. That Bennett really needs to sort of, skate hard with the puck into the offensive zone for Matthew to be a real impact on the forecheck and things like that. And I'm not saying that this is why he was such a non-factor last night, but the one thing that I'm curious to watch as this series continues is, if you remember in those old Battle of Alberta games, whenever Matthew Tkachuk would go up against Evander Kane, it just felt like he was being intimidated. And Kane was not in last year's playoff round against Florida. Now he is, and Kane loves to run around. He is a jackass on the ice. It's to me, even just last night. That interference penalty that he had or didn't get called on, but it was clear on Aaron Ekblad. They just were letting him run around last night, and because when they allow that and he doesn't get called, I think that it does prove to have a good effect, and I think players, I don't want to say cower to it, but they definitely think twice and look over their shoulder. We remember a good example is last season, the Minnesota Wild are in Edmonton, and Jonas Brodin goes back for a puck. He dishes it off and just doesn't think that Vander's going to finish his check. He does, and he breaks, Jonas's hand there. And, that's the one thing about him, is that he's going to finish every check. He's going to come after you before whistles, after whistles, obviously between whistles. And I just think at times Matthews seems to try to stray away from that when he's on the ice against them.
Last thing on this before I hit you with a few for the local squad. This series is obviously not over. If you're Florida, you take away the fact you did have that 3-1 lead. And McDavid is good and cold-blooded as he's been. I thought he kind of disappeared a bit in the second period, but Bobrovsky had trouble with that early one. It was the third chance, I think, for Draisaitl with the first goal, but overall, pretty good game from Bob. Like, Florida's still very much in this mix, right?
Yeah, no, they are, and I've covered them for now 3 playoff seasons in a row, and they I've got a high respect for the way that they adjust, and I think it's one big reason, and guys like Tkachuk and Ekblad and Barkov, they talk about it all the time, is that they have such a belief in knowing what their game should and will look like and how they could get there, that they, even when it's not perfect, they figure out a way to get it done. So last night they blow a 2-goal lead. Obviously, it was still game could have gone either way. They were by far the better team in the first 10 minutes of overtime. So they just didn't finish in those situations. But if they do, we're talking a very different story today. And now all the pressure's on Edmonton. So, they're in a position. They came back from 2-0 down to beat the Leafs. I don't think that they're at all panicking today that they're down 1-0. The big difference, though, is this is a very different Edmonton team than last year for all the reasons that we mentioned. Draisaitl being healthy, Kane being healthy, and then the motivation factor of the best player in the NHL, Connor McDavid, not wanting to feel that emotion again of having to lose the Stanley Cup to Florida.
So the pleasure that you've had in covering the Panthers the last few years during the postseason, as close to you as you are to it now, that's where I kind of bring it as a rube to my favorite team, right? I'm watching what I saw last night. I'm watching this postseason in general, and I'm just thinking, why can't my team be there? What is the one thing or two things or three things that my team, the Wild, need to be part of a conversation like this, hopefully sooner than later? You got about $16 million, and people are bandying about the idea of trading Rossi. Like, what hits you in terms of the idea that maybe Bill Guerin, he kind of needs to pitch a perfect game this summer with now maybe a little more breathing room financially?
Yeah, a little more breathing room, and obviously that'll continue to get more and more breathing room as the cap continues to climb here the next several years, hopefully, as long as we don't have another global pandemic or something like that. Knock on wood. But yeah, I mean, he's got a little more breathing room this year. They have to make a decision on Marco. I think that they don't want to invest a long-term deal in the $7 million range for Marco, and that's why we are where they're at right now. And that's a potential trade here, with the pressure point of an offer sheet being permissible for Marco to shop. And I think there are teams that would be willing to do it. So I think that there are teams showing interest in him right now, and we'll see what Bill Guerin could do. As far as getting to be on par with Florida and Edmonton, I think there's 30 other teams in the league that would like to figure that out too. One team obviously got very, very lucky getting guys like Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, and obviously Nugent Hopkins, another top pick, has been there forever. And then Florida has just done a masterful job building that team, really from the studs up ever since Bill Zito got there during the pandemic. So they're built the perfect way to play the style that, especially if they're playing right now. And to get back to the Minnesota Wild, I mean, it is going to be, it's time. I think Bill Guerin knows it. The one thing I will say is that you don't want to be stupid. If the players are not available this summer to spend the money on, the right players to spend the money on, do not do it. I know that everybody wants them to do it, but if you're just going to throw out bad contracts and further exasperate things when you got to figure out ways to get over the hump, I don't think that helps at all. Sometimes it might be better to be patient and wait until next summer, when at least right now there's a ton more, much better free agents available to pursue. So you don't want to just waste it right now. Now, a lot of those guys are going to probably be re-signed. So, I just think that they got to be careful this summer. Obviously, they lost Brock Nelson, that ability to sign him yesterday when he re-signed with Colorado. It'll be interesting if they go after Tavares or a Jonathan Taves and Matt Duchene. They've got to figure out a way to upgrade the middle, especially if they're going to trade Rossi this offseason.
Yeah. And I'm glad you put it that way. And sometimes I kind of wonder in the context, like, okay, well, fans want to win, and that's, I'm not judging that at all. I want this team to win. But, when you speak to patience, I kind of look more like, I wonder how patient Craig Leopold is. You just got through this buyout hell. And now, to your point, I mean, if Tage Thompson is the right answer and you give him a truckload of cash, okay, that's great. But, is patience required to truly determine that? If you just walk away from the summer with a Matt Duchene, you do improve the middle of the lineup, as you mentioned, but in the same sense that's, he's a little bit older. It's going to be a little more value on the dollar amount, certainly based on what he did in Dallas, but all the same, that's not a 5-year option. If you go with something with a Matt Duchene, or you kind of disappointed that you didn't do more, I think it's tricky and it's tough for me to say, versus just, man, Sam Bennett, whatever he wants, go get him. That could end up, kind of handcuffing you in other ways in the long term.
Absolutely. And, I think the priority, obviously, this offseason is to make sure Kirill gets done, and that's going to cost a pretty penny. But you're right. I mean, I just don't, I look at the free agent list and I find it extremely underwhelming. And, I'm not saying that, don't at least pursue a couple of the guys that I mentioned, but I just think you don't give them crazy length and money. Maybe they're stopgaps until you get something else. That's why I just think that the trade route probably makes the most sense for Bill Guerin this offseason. I still fully believe, especially because we know that he's been tired of sitting on the sidelines, that he is going to go out and try to make some bold moves. I think that Buffalo is the team that he's trying to pick at right now. I know they've talked. I think J.J. Peterka is somebody the Wild are extremely interested in. I don't know yet. I think there is going to come a point if Buffalo continues to lose that guys like Deline and Tage are going to be like, enough, get me out of here. Yeah. I don't think that they're at that point yet at all. But, there are other guys that you could ask about, besides Peterka. Alex Tuck is somebody that obviously Wild fans know well. Unfortunately, I wish they knew him a lot more, but the Wild, used him to, I mean, still, when you look back on it, it's crazy to say they used him to get Vegas to take Eric Holla. So threw away a really quality first-round pick. But, there's pressure on Bill to make the right moves this offseason. I know he's tired of just not being able to be as bold as he wants to, and we'll see where they go. But I think what's hard and confusing for some fans to understand is when you want to upgrade the middle, you finally draft and develop this really quality young center, and Marco Rossi, you get 60 points, 24 goals, back-to-back 20-goal seasons, and then all of a sudden you're at a point where you've got to make a decision on him long term this offseason, and the Wild aren't convinced that they want to make that investment.
Last thing for you kind of say, most important, and I agree, getting Kirill taken care of. Are we at the stage now where we can say that that's a thing that's going to happen? Any potential roadblocks that we need to keep in mind as the summer progresses?
Yeah, I'm never going to say that something is definitely going to happen with Kirill, especially with his agent. I mean, the Wild have had to sign him 2 different times, and both were nightmares. So, I'm not saying that this one's going to be simple. The one difference is that it feels like they've had really good open communication all year long. And it feels like Kirill really, really wants to stay. And we know that the Wild are offer him a boatload of cash, probably in the 15 range. And when you miss half the season with abdominal issues, and suddenly they throw $120 million on the table, it's hard to say no. So I think it gets done. Who knows if it gets done at least at this moment, right on July 1. In fact, I know that it's not a done deal. It definitely has not been agreed upon. But again, from talking to Bill Guerin a couple days ago, he remains confident that they're going to be able to get it done.
That's awesome. And so are you, Mr. Russo. Really appreciate your help today, your insight, not just on the final, but our favorite hockey team. And enjoy continuing to read your coverage of the final.
Yep. Take care, buddy.
Yep. Thank you. That is Mr. Russo, Michael Russo of The Athletic, theathletic.com, at Russo Hockey via X. We'll do some news, catch up on some texts and such, and continue the conversation. Final hour, Nordo in for PA on the...
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities, so do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Fan. Text line, this is Billy's make it or break it year. Either way they look at it. 64686. If he doesn't take a big swing, he won't make it to January.
Oh my gosh. Above average at that.
Maybe the team needs to be patient, prudent in decisions they make. I definitely think the general manager, now that we've had some time leading up to this moment, knowing there would be more breathing room financially, got to pitch a perfect game this summer. That doesn't necessarily mean just handing over the keys and potentially getting ourselves into a contract situation that led us down the road to where we currently are. Thank you to Russo for joining. Thank you to your text messages today as well. News to Nord is brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Live racing on the weekends, but you're feeling the felt any day, all day, every day. Poker, blackjack, and table games. It's an absolute blast. The dealers are awesome. The whole bit is just perfect down at Shakopee at Canterbury Park, The Casino at CanterburyPark.com. Some news as we round out the show this morning. Where are we headed to first, Brett?
Number 1.
We're headed to baseball. The Twins, they're on the road in wherever the Athletics play. They're on the way to
near Sacramento.
I believe so. They're on their way to a 4-game sweep. They play at 2:35. They have just been dominating them the first 3 games of the series. But as it is with the Twins, you can't have too many good things happen all at the same time because Pablo Lopez has a grade 2 strain of something in his right shoulder. Club estimates that he'll be missed for 8 to 12 weeks for your Twins.
No! Yeah, they get the 6-1 win last night. Zebby Matthews' first win of the year. They are indeed 3 for 3 thus far. It's an afternoon affair out west against the A's before they come home. I believe it's Blue Jays this weekend. The Terrace Major. I'm not an absolute, I'm not a, physiological or muscular system expert. So I know that I know because I Googled this and I looked at Google Images. It's under your arm.
Okay.
And it assists with arm function and movement. So there's your big spot intel of the day. You learned something. It's the same injury that Joe Ryan suffered last year. Now, Joe did it early August, I believe, and he was out for the rest of the year. And I saw this courtesy of Dan Hayes of The Athletic. He wrote, he posted last night, Rocco Baldelli with optimism on Pablo Lopez. Quote, I truly believe he's going to be out there pitching for us, probably not at the very end of the year. We're talking like he'll be able to pitch significantly for us this year. So sounds like definitely not throwing for at least a month. And you can follow Dan, Dan Hayes MLB via X. Not throwing for at least 4 weeks, is out 8 to 12, the grade 2 Terrace Major that you mentioned. Man, that is absolutely a kick to the cup. Twins were 21st in ERA last year. They're 6th so far this season, tied for 2nd in walks, hits, innings pitched. And I think a big part of that is Pablo. If you remember last year, ERA north of 4, kind of fighting it a little bit. But this year, sub 3, and I know it's still a sample size. Innings count appears to be that it's a tick down from last year, but overall, a better pitcher. So how are the Twins going to improve in 2025? Well, we know it's not going to be by using cap money, bringing in big-name free agents or anything of that sort. We just need the guys we have to be better. And Pablo needed to be better. So he's cut nearly a run and a half off his ERA. Again, just 11 starts this year. But that was a big part of it. Bullpen returning to prominence. I don't know if they're quite there yet. Offensively, they were top 5 in a bunch of categories last year. This time around, a lot of mid-lane mediocrity. Shocker, missing. I think Correa's taken the day off today. Need him to stay healthy. We need him to be better. And Buxton, I think, mostly fantastic over the last couple of weeks. But Royce Lewis working his way. He was on that nasty slump. And I think he had, was it yesterday or the day before, had a nice, maybe it was a 2-run double. So we need Royce to get going offensively. But a big part of this team winning more games would be bullpen returning to prominence. One of the better ones in baseball not too long ago. Need that back. And we needed Pablo and the starting staff to be healthy. And, well, now Pablo's out. So it's a massive blow to a team. I mean, we're just talking about a hockey team that, whether it's Klingberg, bad injury here in Minnesota, now he's making memories in the Stanley Cup final. You got your playmaker who's going to get $15 million a year, missing half the season last year. Spurgeon getting heat on the text line. Brandt wants to get out of the contract because he's hurt all the time, but I can't necessarily argue with Brandt. We know about Brodin. And then with this team, our big 3 of Correa, Buxton, and Lewis, injuries are absolutely the name of the game. There's got to be fatigue, I have fatigue, where it's like you don't want it to be an excuse, but it is perpetually a problem. So you try to look at other avenues, and you're kind of excited about Bader and Willie Castro making all the dances, and you want to get excited about some of these things, but man, there's some fatigue when it's just, who's hurt now? And we live in a vacuum, Minnesota-sized / Twins fandom regional area vacuum, where clearly there are other teams that deal with a ton of injuries. If you're a Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim fan and you see basically 3 years, if not longer, 3 years of Mike Trout's career taken from him by injury, and now him maybe never being that guy to that level again, you see stuff like that. Other teams deal with it, but man. And you can't put it on the training staffs. You put it on bad luck. You put it on the guys you bring in, but it's awful. And you get 2 more years of Pablo, and Pablo's going to be back later this year, and you just hope that he finds his form, and that you find a team when he does return that is in a position to kind of make a play. I mean, these wins, rack up the wins against these L's that are the A's, but you're still battling for the 3rd spot in the AL Central right now. I think both the Twins and the Royals are sitting there. I think they're in that wild card mix, but it's kind of a grind in where the Tigers are now, maintaining that 6.5, 7 game cushion. Still very early, of course, but yeah, it's unfortunate for the Twins who, just how long has it been where you're not constantly on a day-to-day basis sweating somebody returning, somebody leaving, and it's a bad beat for Pablo, who was definitely stepping up his game from a year ago.
Number 2.
Game 1 of the NBA Finals starts tonight. The Finals. Pacers, Thunder, where's your heart lean and where's your mind lean for the NBA Finals?
I think they're in the boat. So, my heart is, my heart's with the Pacers. My heart's with the Pacers. Just really enjoying Tyrese Halliburton. Just really enjoying what they've done on their run when you watch them play. And just truly, in some ways, if you're a Wolves fan, watch the Pacers and just how they operate. You kind of wish you saw a little bit more of that in the Wolves series against OKC. It might be, probably the same outcome, but maybe a different vibe to it. Could have gone 6, could have gone 7. the head is where I think all Hoops fans should be right now. And, Boogie Cousins, maybe not a true soothsayer, but in some ways, I think he put it right. The audio I used with Parker at the open of the show. We may have a budding dynasty on our hands. It's weird to, try and predict these things, but you look at how dominant this team was all season long, and defensively how strong they are, how young they are in totality, specifically with their core, and the 13 or 14 draft picks, first rounders that they have over the next 6-7 years, and their draft compensation that they currently hold, a war chest, if you will. So it's whether it's their ability to maneuver their way in the draft to get the right player, or in the offseason, something goes wrong, long-term, not able to, put a max deal on the table with Jalen Williams, or, you hope Chet Holmgren stays healthy. Kind of he's battled that, but now that you see him fully healthy, I mean, the local kid's kicking butt out there. But their ability, if they wanted to take a shot at Giannis, they got more ammo than anybody. If they wanted to go out and get a Kevin Durant, they're one of the few teams that don't need him. But you get my point. Is their ability from a flexibility standpoint and what they've built around SGA. After that, I mean, still, just go look it up. The historically horrific Paul George maneuver that led them to picks in SGA. It's unbelievable. But they're 10-point favorites tonight. How nutty is that? Minus 440 on the money line. It is expected that in OKC tonight, the Thunder will crush the Pacers in front of their home crowd fans. I think that's what happens. Got one more?
Number 3.
Sure, I've got one more. I don't know if this is one of us or an honorary one of us. You'll have to tell me. He played for the Gophers, but Rashad Bateman in the news today, him and the Ravens.
Oh, he's one of us.
Yeah, well, I'd say so. At the very least, honorably one of us. Contract extension today. 3-year extension worth $36.75 million with $20 million guaranteed. That is per Shefty. So good for one of us getting paid in the NFL.
Well, and it's, the thing with Rashad in particular is Rashad joining a team that all they wanted to do was run the ball, and you're trying to figure out consummate MVP and Lamar Jackson, but as a passer, I mean, 4,000 yards, 40-some TDs this year. I think he's proven himself in that vein, plus still having the ability to run it a bit. But from a team that it's Mark Andrews, it's Isaiah Likely, how they use the tight ends there. They get rid of, is it Greg Roman? And I forget who the new offensive coordinator is there, and the name's going to hit me as soon as I'm done talking about it. But what they did with Derrick Henry last year can't be discounted at all. Nearly 2,000 yards on the ground. It's still a team that wants to run. It's still a team that wants to, punch you in the face all day long, whatever run game, tough guy cliche you want to put. But they need somebody who can stretch it a little bit. I guess, was I surprised by an extension? To be honest, I didn't think about it other than just thinking about Rashad Bateman in particular, where he got off to a slow start. I think he may have been nicked up his rookie season along the way here, early on in particular, but the production was super low. And you bring in Zay Flowers because in some ways you needed a guy to do what you originally drafted Rashad Bateman for. But Bateman was fantastic. And still, again, I mean, the nine reception TDs was second only to Mark Andrews. You still see a kind of a lower number of targets there, 72. That was second to Zay. But their ability to stretch the field was Zay, and then you have a Rashad Bateman that can really be he can benefit from all of that. It's great for him. It's good news for him and the Ravens. But that's News to Nord, brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Feeling the felt. It's News to Nord. Final segment, 9 to noon is next.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
made it sound so much more ominous, so much more negative and sad than Pablo Lopez with the torn up teres major. The strain is going to be out 8 to 12 weeks as the Minnesota Twins finish their time in Anaheim not Anaheim, excuse me. They're facing the A's. They're 3-3, and I believe they're playing in Sacramento, or at least in that area. Finish up today, come home. It's Blue Jays, it's Gossman, and the Jays, Manana at Target Field. Looking forward to that on Friday. Thanks so much, whether it was Parker opening up on the NBA Finals. Again, a short series that it may be, a budding dynasty that we may see, and how Finch and the Howl attacked that this summer. That's where we're left. Draft later this month, eventually free agency, making the team good again, better again, great again, potentially. But Ben Gessling, following him on the Vikings, terrific piece he and Mark Craig put together on the passing of Jim Marshall, but ultimately OTA's in play. And it sounds like he feels that the team may not necessarily be finished, that you believe that Kwesi, if there's something that they think that is going to make this team better, specifically in 2025, that the 16, 17, 18 million that they have in their pockets right now, that they're not afraid and not hesitant to go get a Jalen Ramsey or somebody that they think can immediately impact this team. Appreciate Gessling. And then you heard Russo earlier this hour on what was an absolutely captivating and what you would expect in this kind of rematch. And that's where my head was kind of going, where, man, would be nice to see a little more from Boldy in the postseason. You didn't have to ask Draisaitl to show up yesterday. You didn't have to ask McDavid to show up. You didn't have to ask Sam Bennett to show up in what was a tremendous Game 1. Game 2 tomorrow night. I believe it's on the Fan, courtesy of Sports USA. NBA Finals tonight, 7:30. And we'll see OKC probably with a 1-0 series lead. Tomorrow, Chad Greenway, more on the Vikings. I'll have Kevin Fallness in for a bit on not only the NHL Stanley Cup Final, but we'll continue the Wild conversation. John Krasinski of The Athletic, Hoops and Howl. It'll be a busy Friday feast. Nordo in for PA. Brett Blakemore right by my side. Thanks for listening to The Fan. Thanks for the text messages and the talkbacks. Everybody have an awesome afternoon, and we'll chat again tomorrow. It's The Fan.
Today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
It's summer. Time to enjoy long days, lazy nights, and great food. Because Uber Eats has deals all summer long. So, when hunger strikes, don't sweat it. Delicious deals are just a tap away on Uber Eats. Enjoy all your favorite grocery items delivered straight to you. Get ice cream, soda, and snacks from your favorite stores like Wegmans and CVS and make the most of every moment. Now that sounds like a good summer. Order now on Uber Eats. Terms apply. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
With depression, it feels like every day you're just going through the motions. I wanted something that could help me feel better fast and that also lasts. That's when my doctor told me about Auvelity.
In a study, Auvelity started working for some as early as 1 week, with significant improvements seen on average at 6 weeks compared to placebo.
Auvelity is helping me to feel more like myself. I'm glad I talked to my doctor about Auvelity.
Auvelity is a prescription medicine for adults with major depressive disorder, MDD. Auvelity is not approved for children under 18. Auvelity may increase suicidal thoughts and actions in young adults. Tell your doctor about sudden changes to mood, thoughts, or behavior. Do not take Auvelity if you have a history of seizure, eating disorder, or have abruptly stopped drinking alcohol or taking benzodiazepines, barbiturates, or anti-seizure medicine. Serious allergic reactions can occur. Do not take if you are allergic to dextromethorphan, bupropion, or any of the ingredients in Auvelity. Do not take with MAOIs. High blood pressure, manic episodes, serious eye problems, and dizziness can occur. Report all medicines you take to avoid a life-threatening condition. Do not take Auvelity if you are or may become pregnant. Side effects can include dizziness, headache, diarrhea, feeling sleepy, dry mouth, sexual function problems, and excessive sweating.
Ask your healthcare provider if Auvelity is right for you. Visit Auvelity.com. That's AUVELITY.com. Or call 866-496-2976 for more information.